Good evening, everybody.
This month, we're talking about weeds, which are obviously super important. We got some great folks here to present on noxious weeds in the Big Hole Watershed. So we'll do some introductions. I'll start. I'm KG and I am representing the University of Montana Western and
Becky Bowler from Butte. Paul Bowler from Butte.
Jim Hayden from Glen.
Cole Denver from Butte.
Jenna Dunn, Montana Bureau of Mines and Geology.
Caitlin Lloyd, Fish, Wildlife and Parks.
Luke Watts, Fish, Wildlife and Parks.
Garrett Bassa, NRCS.
Dean Peterson, rancher, Upper Big Hole. Jeff Wall, Glen.
John Wayne Park, rancher, Seymour Creek.
Eddie Smith, rancher, Glen.
Lindsay Babcock, Bureau of Land Management, Butte Field Office.
Brooks Mine, Butte Field Office, BLM.
Kevin Sheridan, Butte Field Office, BLM.
Jim Keenan, Butte-silver Water.
Diane Hutton, Wisdom.
You guys back there have to talk to, might have thought you were getting out of this, but you're not.
Jamie Murdoch, Rancher Glen.
Don Peterson, rancher, Jackson.
Amber Birch, Beaver Head County Weed District Supervisor.
Clayton Mark, Madison County Weed District Coordinator.
Paul Peterson, rancher on Lower Big Hole and Fish, Wildlife and Parks. Chris Bull, Butte-silver Department Coordinator.
Emma Fullerton, Beaver Head Conservation District. Cass Kohler, Nature Conservancy.
Matt Norberg, DNRC.
Caitlin Boring, DNRC.
Tim Fay, Wise River.
shoot dang, we got a full house. I guess that's because weeds are so important. We'll kick the meeting off like we usually do with one of our most important people, Caitlin Bourne. Gonna give us the precipitation and snowpack and stream flow report.
I'm Caitlin Boren, I'm from the DNRC, I'm the Upper Big Hole hydrologist, and every month I give a stream flow and precip report. This is our Stream and Gauge Explorer for DNRC stream gauge sites. You can find them here at this website, if you're ever interested. Current stream flow is broken down by drought management section. Section 1 and 2 are in ice. Section 3, Dickey Bridge is at 306 CFS. Section 4, Melrose is at 361 CFS. Glen is at 416. Section 5, Twin Bridges is at 290 CFS. I wanted to put up the hydrograph because those, I think they're still affected by ice. And so I think taking that stream flow with a grain of rice is a good way to look at it, because you can see how it drops every day up and down. Usually that's a sign of freezing. This is Melrose. This is all ice effect, and then they turn the gauge on right around the beginning of March. This is Glen. You can definitely tell this was ice affected data. Twin Bridges, it looks more uniform. I would say I would trust this more than the other sites right now, as far as stream flow goes. Snow water equivalent is at 89% of median values right now, which is great. These are all our SNOTEL sites that we use for SWE values. I checked on Slagamelt Lakes. It has at least 10 years of data. This is generated by Montana Drought. It shows where the snowpack is relative to elevations. We're right at or above average between 7,000 and 9,000 feet, which is great. Lower elevations look like above 300%. Precipitation is 86% of median values. These are the same SNOTEL sites used for SWE. This is the 30-day standardized precipitation index from Montana Drought. Most of the valley is above normal to normal for the last 30 days, which is good to see. Climate outlook, we're in a La Nina advisory. We're transitioning to end zone neutral right now. 8 to 14 day Temperature is gonna be above average, precipitation above average. Seasonal, which is March, April, and May, below average for temperature and looks like kind of equal chances for precip. This is the current US drought monitor from March 11th. And that's all I got. I also want to let you guys know, this is gonna be my last meeting. Yeah, my husband got a call from his old employer and they offered him a job he could not refuse, so I'm gonna be moving on, unfortunately. Really, Arizona.
Oh, man.
So,
Man,
yeah, so I just wanted to say thank you guys so much for all the work you've been doing. I've really enjoyed getting to know everybody on this committee and working with you. In the interim between me leaving and hiring somebody else, Matt Norberg is gonna be filling in, and Luke Lutz, he's the riparian tech for the CCAA. He's been my hydro tech as well, and he is really top notch, leaving you guys in good hands.
well, thank you, Caitlin. Caitlin's done an awesome job. Okay, we're gonna move on. Pedro's gonna talk to you guys. He's definitely, I just wanna let you know how hard he's working, cause all the internet went out where he is and he's hanging out in a pretty interesting place so he can have this meeting with all of us. Let me figure out my technical difficulties real quick. And we'll get over there to all his fun stuffs. That's Pedro.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, Pedro.
Coming at you from my little truck here. Near some coconut trees, but I need to stay close to the power of the vehicle to make sure my cell phone stays on. So,
All
right. It's been a really busy month. Top of mind is the funding situation with the funding freezes. We still have Forest Service and BLM contracts, whether frozen, unfrozen, or the funding is just not flowing, right? So it's basically work that we can't continue until I hear otherwise. And it's money that it would be foolish of us to spend if we can get the money out of the bank and pay our contractors. That's where we're at with the Eastern Pioneers and Forest Service, Eastern Pioneers conifer work, Elkhorn mine work, and our partnership with the Nature Conservancy for the Smith Springs Reconnect project up by Wisdom. I've been advised that we can't proceed with contracting until we have more certainty. The governing board received drafts of a letter to the Beaverhead County Commissioners. We're hoping the commissioners can raise their voices and get this funding unstuck by getting in touch with our elected representatives. I also adapted that letter so that any one of us could send the letter directly to our elected reps. So I'm just holding out to make sure that there are no hangups from the governing board. As long as I have consensus on the language of those two letters, we'll start letting them fly. I'll be encouraging folks over email to send those letters to our electeds. What prompted this, I don't know if some folks may have seen the story in the Missoulian, the Blackfoot Challenge had money held up in these funds. The Missoula County Commissioners wrote a similar letter about the jobs at stake with those funding freezes, and they got a good portion of their federal dollars flowing again. I'm hopeful that just a little bit of a push from all of us collectively will do the trick. In that letter, the last draft of it, I emphasized the job creation that these contracts involve. Last year, we put out $650,000 in contracts to sole proprietors, Montana engineers, contractors. That's the angle to take. This is about jobs and keeping the restoration economy humming. The total combined with the Forest Service, BLM, and TNC grants is close to $1 million. And those are contracts going through 2027. So that's money that, we desperately need to get unstuck so we can keep moving. On the bright side, the Bureau of Reclamation Watershed Planning Grant is flowing. That's a 3-year grant. It's a lot of what I'm going to be spending my time here doing, getting us ready to really have a plan on the projects that we want to be doing for the next, decade, basically updating the existing restoration plan that we have, The existing plan highlighted the French Creek Basin as our top priority. And as you know, most of you know, we've spent about 12 years up there pretty much fixing every major issue on every major stream in the French Creek Basin. We've removed more sediment than the entire TMDL called for. That's the total maximum daily load set by the DEQ for the amount of sediment in that stream. And we've documented reductions of more than that amount. The DEQ is now looking to reevaluate the listing of French Creek. And I hope we'll get the state's first large-scale delisting of a basin for sediment due to all the work all of you have been a part of based on partnerships. This next watershed restoration plan is, kind of going to chart the next decade of work for us, and hopefully with similar results. So with that watershed planning, I did have some money allocated in there to support stream flow monitoring throughout the Big Hole. We're interested in knowing the flows are in certain tributaries where there may be important tributaries that we want to highlight and know just sort of the relative amount of water coming out, measuring and helping irrigators and producers measure the amount of water that they are using and the amount of water that they're conserving more than anything, especially in years of drought when our drought plan is activated. There's always questions about how much conservation is happening, and I'd like to show and share those stories. So we purchased a SONT flow meter with the help of Caitlin and the CCAA team. They're pointing us in the right direction. We got the equipment to do that monitoring efficiently, and we'll be hiring a stream tech for the summer to spend time doing this stream flow monitoring. The CCAA folks will train that person. I'll be there in July and August to support that effort. And, anyone that is unsure of or doesn't have a measuring device on their ditches and wants to know kind of what's in their ditches at any given moment, we'll have somebody available to help out with that. And I want to work on standardizing the reporting of the conservation that's happening in the Big Hole. We got funding for beaver conflict work. This is a continuation of some foundation funds that we got last year. So there's another $20,000. Supports my work on the beaver working group and also some of the projects that we have underway that are beaver related. Tana, in her brief moments in between raising a family, responded to the Heart of the Rockies. We're about to sign a contract with them for wildlife conflict prevention programs. We're looking at a 3-year secured funding for our wildlife conflict program. Our range rider and our carcass compost will be getting a boost from that funding source. The High Stakes Foundation, their funding round just passed. We have funding from them. Some of that is helping support Kim's position. And there's a new request that I'll be putting in August for them. I participated right when the funding freezes happened. They brought together a lot of their grant recipients, some 40 or so organizations. And boy, I guess my take home, and they fund all kinds of projects from social projects, hunger and food banks, conservation groups like ours, and LGBT groups. I do have to say, we are in a much better spot than a lot of other nonprofits. It was a tense, anxiety-filled meeting of folks telling stories of what they're up against, the difficult staff cuts they were staring down. I think it speaks to moving forward the importance of private funding for our work. Keep that in mind as you're talking to companies, business people, folks that believe in the work that we do. Private dollars are gonna see us through some of this difficulty until we see what federal funding for conservation looks like. Next slide, please. On the communications side of things, Kim did a great job. There's this website that is tracking and documenting all of the low-tech beaver mimicry, low-tech process-based restoration projects across the West. When I got on there, I realized we weren't on there. Kim put together summaries of the project work we've done in these 3 areas. Look up BDA Explorer or low-tech process-based restoration. These are the folks at Utah State leading this work on the academic side, and we're on the map, and that's important. Hopefully folks will see that. Another piece of communications we got out on Montana Public Radio. They have a program called The Big Why, and they had done a spot on, it was about, I think, changing snowpack and groundwater recharge or something like that. And I just asked them a follow-up question about the role that expanding conifers in our grasslands and sagebrush biomes is having on groundwater. And they thought it was a super interesting question, and they went off to the races to just find out more about conifer encroachment and the impacts on water. JM, Peck, and the Trapper Creek Ranch were gracious enough to host the reporter out on their property and talk about the work that we've done with them, conifer reduction in riparian zones. Sean Claffey and the Nature Conservancy also talked about some of the science behind what they're seeing in the relationship between trees and water in Southwest Montana. But I got to tell you, if you go into Missoula and start suggesting to people that you got to cut trees to have more water, they look at you like you're from another planet. And so there is a lot of education that needs to happen out there about vegetation management for water. I think this is going to be a big, important piece. Please share it. Have a listen. It was a well done piece by the reporter Ellis Julin. The Montana Cayman also was following up with us on a piece that they are doing on the grayling. And Dean was gracious enough to host a reporter there to provide perspectives on conservation and grayling in the upper Big Hole. I'm not sure yet on the result of that and when that's going to come out, but I'll make sure to keep you all posted. And I also engaged the National Geographic magazine. They're putting out an article related to beaver. There was a photographer out a couple years ago touring around some sites and taking photographs, and I basically had to help fact check one of the photos they put up that was of Joyner Gulch in the Montana Mount Hagen Superfund area. They didn't quite get the caption right, and I had to provide some context as to how we sort of looked at beaver as the reference condition and designed our restoration based on the work and function of beaver on the landscape. Don't know exactly how much we'll get a mention, but I tried to plug Watershed Committee, and that'll be in Nat Geo, the yellow magazine. Hopefully we get a mention there. I wanted to plug also at 4 p.m. on March 26th at the Cooper Lounge in the Student Union Building at Montech. You all know that MSU has sponsored some PhD students to take deep dives into the fisheries issue in Southwest Montana. So the students involved with those studies are going to be presenting. This is the first public presentation I've heard of where some of the initial data that they produced last year will be shared. It's an in-person meeting, so I wanted to make sure you all had that date on your calendars to stay up to date on what their research looked like last year. Lastly, on the comms front, the Montana Beaver Working Group's annual meeting is April 1st and 2nd. That one is one that you can join via Zoom. I'm doing some updates on the regulatory group in that committee. Should be an interesting conversation. It's over 2 days. Mostly the first day is mostly presentations. The second day, there's one talk by FWP biologist Jared Payne, riparian ecologist, talking about, mimicking beaver and vegetation on the landscape. He has really balanced views on the types of projects we've done. All things to keep your ears tuned to, and let's go to the next one.
That's the one that didn't make it all the way.
Yeah, so this slide didn't make it because I was looking up all of the latest on some of these bills that I had been tracking, and then my internet fell and I couldn't really get to the bottom of all of what I wanted to. I heard from USGS. I did contract with USGS to keep temperature data flowing on 3 important gauges in our drought management plan. The USGS rep said he hasn't seen any sign that gauge funding will be cut, but other folks have maybe heard whispers that once the hatchet and the Doge hatchet goes for the Department of Interior or USGS, that stream gauges might be in jeopardy. Stay alert and engage your elected representatives. Those are critical pieces of infrastructure we can't manage water if we don't know how much we have. This committee's worked hard to get the gauge infrastructure that we have operating and consistent and publicly available. So that's an important thing for us all to be aware of. And our elected representatives. We had a kickoff meeting for the groundwater investigation program. That's the Montana Bureau of Mines and Geology. We're kicking off their feasibility study for managed aquifer recharge in Wisdom. So our water storage sort of subcommittee met with the team there from MBMG, and we're excited to get going with them. I'll be putting out a blurb in the Big Hole Breezes, letting folks in the Wisdom area know we'll have hydrologists up there. The first thing that they need to do is drill some wells to get a real good understanding of what the deep aquifer around Wisdom. That's the initial first target, is that area for some sort of aquifer recharge project. And that could be surface storage, or it could be, injecting surface flows at high water into the deep aquifer and then pumping out when needed. Ideally, it's by the Wisdom gauge with the goal of keeping consistent flows and conservation level flows going for the grayling in that area. So I will keep everyone posted as that project develops. We're just at very early stages there. On the legislative front, I welcome any updates if you've heard anything. The ones that we were tracking, HB 580 on water rights abandonment. I think this was intended to give irrigators peace of mind. If you conserve in drought, you can't be accused of abandoning a water right. I don't know if this is a case that's ever actually happened, but a mere threat of some group targeting an irrigator for abandoning their water right was worth this piece of legislation. I'm not sure. Again, I haven't tracked this. I don't know the current status, but it was one that definitely perked my attention when I was looking through that. HB 256, the water storage fund, as far as I know, still has a wide range of support and would create a fund for the DNRC for water storage projects, rehabilitation, and upkeep and maintenance of existing dam infrastructure throughout Montana. To basically create a new grant program for the type of stuff we are already deeply engaged in. Looking forward to that bill getting through. The last one there was SB 473. And I believe this is the one about weather modification. Others in the room could speak more intelligently about that one, because I haven't seen much other than just the alert that I got through email a few weeks ago. The important thing I understood was, in an effort to pass some legislation around weather modification, potentially the cloud seeding work that we've been doing in the upper Big Hole would potentially be at risk or be made inviable through this bill. Sounded like it was going to get killed, but I'm not sure where it's at. I think that's it.
Do you have any comments, Jim?
Yeah, I do have comments.
Hold on, let me. You gotta talk into
Mike
this.
that man up.
Oh, Mike, come up. He's gotta get, he's got that low, sweet voice, so.
Senate Bill 473, sponsored by Balin, who happens to be from eastern Montana. Those folks cause a lot of problems in regards to cloud seeding because of the conflict with North Dakota in regards to hail. But anyways, Senate Bill 473 has passed the Senate, and all in it right now, all Montana code in regards to cloud seeding has been eliminated. It's going to the House Natural Resource Committee. I would like, since the Big Hole Watershed Committee supports cloud seeding, I would like permission from you folks to testify in behalf of Big Hole Watershed Committee in regards to this bill. The contrail and chemtrail conspiracy theorists, it was a real show. We have the data and they have social media. This is a very dangerous bill for cloud seeding. Currently, the legislation in the state of Montana is pretty arbitrary and capricious. It's very difficult to work with. Once we do a pilot study and get more data to encourage people to recognize what cloud seeding is about, then we'll have to work on that legislation to get Montana as a partner, similar to what Idaho's done. Is there anyone here that doesn't want me to testify on behalf of this group? Seeing none, that's the nitty gritty on that. Okay.
Thanks, Jim. Okay, and Kim, I've got a few more slides here.
Let me just grab this, Dean's got something to say, hold on.
I've talked to a number of legislators about 473 House people. It appears they have a decent chance of killing it in the House. It doesn't appear the governor supports it either, so I think and I would agree with Jim. I think we need to testify against this bill. On the management aquifer recharge, myself, two of the landowners, and a group of people from Montana Tech are meeting next Tuesday afternoon. Kind of get everybody together and look at potential sites.
Good luck, guys.
All right.
Back to you, Pedro.
Thanks for those updates. Quick word on restoration projects. I've been supporting two other projects with Ben leaving and me not being present. The DEQ's 319 program has come up for funding again. We have two open grants with them already. So we didn't have the bandwidth to take on any new proposals, but I have been supporting the Montana Conservation Corps. They put in a pre-proposal to do some, natural water storage projects with the forest on both Trail Creek and Selway Saginaw. Part of the Selway Saginaw project already cleared with the forest. Hopefully, very simple, re-wetting the sponge in some meadows far from irrigation where we can do some good and create later season trickle down from activating old abandoned side channels. The Trail Creek project, we had done a bunch of hundreds of acres of riparian conifer encroachment, and Ben identified potential for hydrologic lift through the type of work we're good at doing. The Conservation Corps has taken that bear on. I was meeting with them earlier today. They did round one pre-proposal, got questions, and are working on their final proposal. The other project still in the works, we're not going to throw in a proposal for quite yet, but it's down on the Burma Road. If y'all might remember, folks down that area a couple years ago, the big gully washer blew the road out above the notch on a state ground. The county also piles snow and sediment in a pullout area. It's an obvious sediment bomb to the river. The aerial photographs are clear, tons of sediment dropping into the river from there. Pretty slam dunk 319 sediment reduction project. Again, I didn't have the bandwidth to go further with that one, but the youth employment program took up my call and started. We've got some conceptual ideas, and they've started reaching out and working with the BLM, see if they can do some sort of volunteer small scale stuff this year. We'll look at a proposal next year for reducing sediment. Those are just what I call scoping work, priming the pump for the next projects. On your screen there is the stuff that's actually going on right now. So we put out an RFP. I think I had just put it out before last meeting for a GIS investigation of high meadow storage to see the size and potential volume of natural water storage in high meadow areas throughout the Big Hole. So it's a desk exercise, it's a GIS exercise. And the other component of that is if we were to continue cloud seeding in the Beaverhead Range, where would we store additional water? We had two bids from HDR and WGM Group, 3 board members and our staff, and then the Anaconda Deer Lodge County Commissioners all reviewed the proposals, and there was a clear winner. So WGM Group, led by Jeff Dunn, who has been in the room quite a bit with us and has a long history. Deer Lodge County will be contracting directly. We're not involved in the contracting of that project at all, but our watershed planning reclamation project will fund my time to support that work. Looking forward to getting that contracted here pretty soon. I'll talk about the California Creek project here in the next slide. The other ones haven't really moved from last month. I'm waiting for the Beaverhead Conservation District to release an RFP for a contractor to help them and the forest with the work at the Elkhorn Mine and Mill. And if you heard that and are thinking, wait, isn't the Watershed Committee already doing that for the last 5 years? You're correct. We have been. I'll leave it at that. We need to put in a bid to win that contract and continue work at Elkhorn. Funding is frozen at the federal level, but we have state grants related to that work that I'm hoping to unlock. And we do have a line of credit that's burning a hole in our finances. We need to win the RFP so that those funds can start flowing again and we can pay that line of credit down. By the time we get there, we'll have been holding 5 figures for over a year. The Rock Creek Fish Barrier Project, ready to contract that out through Future Fisheries for August. That's, Jim Olson, it's a priority project of his to get that barrier in. We have funding from the Mule Deer Foundation and Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation for conifer encroachment thinning on the forest to put time into to get that unlocked, potentially unlocking some private land to continue that thinning and do some cross-boundary work. If the Forest Service money doesn't free up, that gives us some flexibility to keep that work going. On the wildlife program side of things, carcass composting should be set to begin here. Please call Justin for the latest. We may be having snafus with the vehicle and dump truck. If you need carcasses composted, call Justin at the number on the screen. And staffing wise, Tana is still on maternity leave. We will have her back for the next meeting. And Fabi's got KG running the comms, helping us do some great science communications. If you've noticed on our social media platforms, she's been kind of getting to the bottom of where we keep all our files and where all the good science-based information lives in our files and getting it out there to the public. Looking forward to continuing that work with her. Looking forward to get Emma here for the summer to continue supporting our Mount Hagen restoration work. And I'll be sharing with the steering committee, I'll share the position announcement here as soon as I have internet and can share it. So you see what I'm hoping to bring in. But we're looking at a technician level person to be with us from about mid-May through about mid-September, about halftime. They will get trained up by the CCAA team to use that flow meter and be available for water measurement throughout the watershed. That will be funded through our reclamation grant for watershed planning. That's all written into the budget. That's it for that one. And just the last one, I wanted to give you a sense of this California Creek area. That's the Mill Creek Road running north-south, Highway 569. California Creek is that little road at the top of the Mount Hagen game range. The first basin there, I've been working on that site since 2015, and we've done just about everything short of heavy equipment. We've got wet right now, designing a couple different alternatives, sort of a heavy-handed alternative and then a lighter touch to try to stem the perpetual erosion off this site. This is probably the last big mechanized effort under that Superfund contract. I wanted to give you a visual. Hopefully we will see alternatives in the next month or so, select the right alternative, make sure NRD funds it, and hopefully while I'm out there in July and August, have a contractor on the ground getting the work done so I can oversee it. And that is what I've got. Thanks for bearing with me.
Awesome, thanks, Pedro. Just gonna go back for a second here. And then we will see if the steering committee has any reports or updates. Jim.
Hold on one second.
We're dialoguing with Pedro in regards funding cuts and trying to get some broke loose so we can continue to work on the resource. And then I did talk to Tim from Beaverhead Sports about a Polaris four-wheeler. I thought that would be good advertisement for Polaris. I don't know if anything will happen, and I don't know if the people involved in the Range Rider have found any solution to that problem. Because he certainly can't walk. I see him getting a lot of funding from the wildlife folks, Rock Mountain Elk Foundation, Mule Deer Foundation. And though there are some landowners in the area that have problems with elk, especially on deeded land. And tonight we have Jamie Burdock, who has a problem with bighorn sheep coming up McCarty Mountain and bothering her sheep. And if I have permission, I'd like to have her say just a few short words in regards to that issue, which could be devastating to their operation.
We have a unique situation. We've had bighorn brands visiting the Houston Astros. And my losses for this year, I've lost 60 lambs to reproductive decline. And no solutions from FWP or the Wild Sheep Foundation. We've been having lots of conversations and trying to figure out a solution. Fencing all of McCarty and our property, $750,000 to $1 million. So I don't find that to be a solution. The solutions with domestic sheep in the West seems to be sell or ship to cattle. So I'm looking for other solutions, perhaps funding to offset the lots of 60 lambs, and then we'll see what this season brings. So anyone has any ideas, I'm open to that. Thank you, Jen.
Okay, does anybody else have anything they want to talk about? No, okay, we'll take a short break.
I think we have some updates from the BLM on the additional items.
We're at the break.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hi again, I'm Lindsay Babcock, Field Manager with BLM's Butte Field Office. Thanks for letting me sneak on the agenda. Just wanted to give an update on a new project. We're starting public scoping today on a new forest management project. I wish I would have gotten you an electronic map, but I'll make sure you all have it in the notes. There are hard copies by the door. We're looking at treating just over 10,000 acres north of Wise River from Bear Gulch to Jerry Creek. During the Alder Creek fire in 2021, there were a couple days where that fire almost crossed the river, and we were terrified that if that happened, the Alder Creek fire was going to end up in Butte. We were going to have devastating effects to the Watershed, Big Hole River. We're taking a big bite out of that area, doing forest health treatments, upland conifer removal, and hazardous fuel reduction. The project area is wildland urban interface in both Silver Bow and Deer Lodge counties. We're having a public meeting next Wednesday in Wise River from 5:30 to 7 at the old ranger station there in Wise River. And the public comment period will close April 1st. And then one item I wanted to mention in the era of government efficiency, we decided to try doing what's called NEPA in a week. I don't think we're gonna get it done in 1 week, first bite, but I think 7 to 9 days. We got chapter 1 and 2 done, positive experience. Any questions on the project? Handouts and maps in the back. Thank you for your time.
So again, you have to eat those cookies. They're really good. I know that because I've already eaten some. So eat the cookies, talk amongst yourselves, and then we'll gather back up in a short little while here. All right, guys, gather around, talk about some weed. I still see cookies here, so I'm a little frustrated. Please help me out. You gotta forgive me, I'm pretty new. I hang out at these meetings, but I don't know some of you. Who wants to go first? Talking about the weeds, should I pick a name? Does anyone else aside from Amber have slides? Nobody else has slides? Okay. I'm just gonna pick a name. What about Clayton? Does Clayton wanna go first? All right, let's get Clayton out here. Watch out for these wires.
My name is Clayton Markser. I am the new Madison County Weed Coordinator. I just started the end of last year. I don't have a huge update other than we're changing some things at the Madison County Weed District. We haven't been mapping. I don't know all of the reasons why, but I actually feel like mapping is super important. How can you have an idea of what the problem is if you don't have any mapping data? How can you monitor your effectiveness of your treatments without any mapping data? How can you tell the story to my county commissioners or taxpayers if you don't have mapping data? That's one of the big changes I'm making. We're really gonna lean into the outreach and education way more than we have. Obviously, we're gonna do a lot of spraying, but a significant portion of Madison County, and it's growing all the time, that is kind of underserved when it comes to education about natural resource issues, but weeds in general. And that's the small acreage landowners, all the new subdivisions coming in. A few years ago, when I worked for NRCS, I spearheaded a small acreage landowner workshop that's done really well. We're going to continue that in partnership with NRCS, conservation districts, and extension. Another project next month is realtor education for noxious weeds coming up. And that is just a special dedicated workshop for that audience, because there are laws in Montana code pertaining to sellers and noxious weed disclosure, but nobody talks about it. And most of the realtors don't even know what you're talking about when you bring it up. So we're having a 2-hour class where they get credits for their license. That's just some of the new stuff coming on. As far as the big hole portion of it, we'll be doing spray days with Amber and everybody else and supporting the work that she's been doing for years and hopefully participating in it ourselves. Anybody have any questions? Yes.
So Clayton, how do you fund your weed program in Madison County?
It's funded through the county, like, so,
Taxes.
yep, mills. And, you know, there's also grant programs, like if we do a special grant area, and Amber's like the queen of grants in Montana. So I'm gonna be learning from her on that, but if we come up with a special area, like what you guys have on the big hole, it'll be funded similar to that through the Noxious Weed Trust Fund. Thank you for your time. And now I'm gonna turn it over to somebody who actually knows what she's talking about.
You're turning it over to.
Amber.
We're trying to get Amber to go last. I want Amber to go last because she has slides. I want you guys to stay alive. I want you to be pumped. Plus, I feel like yours is gonna tie it all together. I'm just willing to bet that. Yeah. All right, you go next. Stand kind of in front so that little electronic weirdo gets you.
Hello, my name's Kevin Sheridan. I'm with the BLM, the new weeds coordinator. About 1.5 years into the job, last summer, focusing on monitoring here in the Big Hole. Spent maybe 1.5 weeks just up in that Jerry Creek area, monitoring and planning for some treatments this summer. We're kind of just trying to revamp and rebuild our weeds program. I have a little bit more data to kind of figure out if these treatments that we're implementing are actually working. I think we're gonna have some MCC crews for 2 weeks. I have a couple areas in the Big Hole Watershed to focus on, but I also just wanted to kind of let everybody know, like, I appreciate any tips or like any places that you think needs a little bit more attention. In the Marysville area where we work as well, had quite a few landowners that reached out, and we've already had a couple spray days. I can't do the work without all of you guys as well, because this is the area that you know best. Please feel free to reach out, have some cards I can give out.
Thanks for volunteering. Who else wants to volunteer? Anybody? All right, come on, we gotta see that beautiful face, and you got a nice hat, man.
Hello, everybody. Paul Peterson, Montana Fish, Wildlife and Parks. So I didn't make it to the weeds meeting last year, so I'll kind of update you on what we Did Police Wildlife Management Area and Mount Hagen Wildlife Management Area under my scope, all the fishing accesses and state parks within this area as well. We're entering the third year of a 5-year contract. We're spraying 853 acres a year up there. Dollar figure comes out to about $54,000 per year. So the past 2 years, we've sprayed 1,706 acres right across the road over here on Fleecer. Starting to see a lot of really, really good results. And anybody that wants any of the maps or anything, shoot me an email. I can shoot you the maps out. So if you're concerned about the boundary of your property or something, you can kind of see what we're getting done there. Over on Mount Hagen Wildlife Management Area. So 2023, we treated 683.6 acres, dollar figure of about 44,000. 2024, we did 683.5 acres, dollar figure of 43,750. And then we also had a helicopter treatment where we sprayed 710.338 acres. Total acres treated the past 2 years on Mount Hagen game range is 2,077.48 acres. Have all that mapped as well. And then we've been doing a lot of Nutrifix work, and I don't know if any of you are really familiar with it. I spoke on this, I believe 3 times ago, but Nutrifix is a micronutrient fertilizer that we've been utilizing to get in front of our annual issues. It's expensive as hell, but what we're seeing in one treatment is what we usually see with 7 treatments of chemical herbicide. The work that we've seen up to this point, I mean, it's pretty unbelievable. So cheatgrass, knapweed, anything like that, if we want to kind of reestablish some of our natives, doing a lot of soil testing. If tests that we get back call for, soil enhancement to reestablish our natives, then, really hit it pretty hard with Nutrifix. So in 2022, we did 2 different, this is up on Fleecer for Nutrifix. We did 8.88 acres, and then we did another plot up there of 11.74 acres. Just kind of test plots in the fall to see how things would establish next spring, and the results were phenomenal. So we went back in 2023 and we did 349 acres, and then 2024 we did 3 more polygons up there. And mind you, all these are completely different sites. You hit this once, and for 7 years, you've eliminated the issue. In 2024, we went back. We have 1 polygon, 7.37 acres, another of 31.83 acres, another one of 64.86 acres. Total Nutrifix work on Fleecer up to date is 473.68 acres. I don't know if anybody spends time up on Fleecer, but when I got to the FDP in about 2018, Fleecer was an absolute disaster. I mean, you drive up the highway and it just rolled purple. Between the weed work that we've done and now a lot of this Nutrifix work, I mean, you take a drive up that east entrance or the south entrance, and trying to find a knapweed plant at this point is starting to get a little bit tough. And, we have 3 years left contract. So a lot of exciting work's taking place up there. Mount Hagen, we haven't done as much Nutrifix work, but over, last year we did 3 different polygons, which totaled 19.04 acres. Those are kind of some test areas for any of the soil hurting from smelter use right now. The only thing that will grow is fucking knapweed. So we went back and try and do a bunch of this soil work on that, and then see if we can go back and drill natives and see what we can establish. Last year, we sprayed every fishing access site on the Big Hole River. We didn't get all of it, it's brought to my attention, but as long as, House Bill 5 made it through the House pretty well untouched. As long as we can get it the rest of the way untouched, then all the fishing access sites on the Big Hole, spring and fall treatments for the next 5 years.
So the Nutrifix, how do you apply?
It's granular, so we put it in a seed spreader. Yeah, on the back of a 4-wheeler, basically goes into the hitch of a 4-wheeler. Tie it to your battery, click it on, and off you go. It's got the calibration on it, and be careful with it, because if you go too hot, it'll kill everything. We're running about 75 to 80 pounds to the acre. They've ran it up to 300 pounds an acre in some places in Colorado. Right now, the Nutrifix is plus or minus $300 an acre to put on. That's just the product. But I mean, the cheapest weed spray contracts that we have are $64 to $66 an acre. If you take that times 7, long term, it pays for itself. I have nothing against herbicide. We use a lot of it and we get a lot of good stuff done. But if I can put something out that's gonna benefit the soil instead of take away from the microbiomes that are in the soil and get the same results that I'm getting with herbicide, then I'm gonna keep pushing that route. We've got places outside of the big hole deal, like down on the Rob Ledford, that have been oversprayed. And we're talking parcels as big as this room. You don't even get knapweed to grow. It's just dirt, and it used to be hay fields before the FAP bought it. We'll do one treatment, and within 6 months, it looks like a hayfield. I'm not shitting you. It's the rest of the grass that hasn't been grazed, you know, will be that tall and just decking it old dead grass. And that piece that we treated, I mean, it'll be like that. It'll look like somebody's irrigated hayfield, just green, with just these little patches. And the only thing that those patches are, it's place there wasn't any seed still left in the seed bank that been established. But yeah, I've got a ton of information on Nutrifix. The guy that created it lives in Bozeman. Great guy, and he would love to do more work up in this part of the world if anybody's interested.
You talked about spraying over 2,000 acres, some of it helicopter, how do you do the rest of it?
ATV, UTV, backpack.
Like boom spray.
Yep. Yep. Our new contractor swears by it, and the results so far, I can't argue. A lot of people don't agree. We do late fall work right before snow. The new contractor broadcasts everything, period. And he said if he sees one plant, he's broadcasting over the top of it. He doesn't spot spray. And his thought is, the second that you touch a gun, you're overspraying. The second you put that gun in, you're putting too much chemical on the ground. His thought is if we hit them late fall, you know, they've already went to seed. But what you do is, as long as you're broadcasting that whole area, then there's enough residual left in the ground of that chemical that none of your seed, well, it'll sterilize all the seeds. And I can't argue with him. Look at Fleecer, look at Mount Hagen, we have places that were up to 60-70% coverage of knapweed or other weeds. And I mean, we're down to less than trace. I mean, you go, German Gulch or this Fleecer side, or, you know, some places on the south or west side of the divide on the big hole up there. Places 8 times as big as this room where you couldn't walk through it. We just flowing all over the place. And now you go up there, you're digging to find a plant. So it's worked out good for us, broadcasting everything.
So the Nutrifix, are they formulating that for your soil type individually? I mean, you'll send that, okay.
Really, it's just extremely high in boron.
Yeah.
And so it's really hard on your annuals, and it's really good for your, you know, biannuals. So, but no, and then they actually just lost it was getting manufactured down in Idaho Falls at ACF West. Now it's being manufactured in Pasco, Washington. But Stuart Jennings would be the guy to kind of talk to about that. And he's unbelievable. Like that knapweed patch that you're talking about up here. I mean, if we could get that money put together to go treat that, within 1 year, there wouldn't be a knapweed problem.
That'd be great.
So,
We put it on cheatgrass on our place and it had really good results. That was encouraging.
we've got some places up on Fleecer up here. We put it on cheatgrass, and at the time it was off label. So we weren't allowed to put it on knapweed, but there just so happened to be some knapweed intermixed with some cheatgrass. We put those up in 2016, still holding strong, no cheatgrass, no knapweed coming back.
Is that a late fall application with the Nutrifix or?
As long as it's granular, which is what we use, they say that you can put it on anytime. They say that it'll last like 85 days without any moisture before, you know, it kind of becomes an issue. But and we put it on any time of the year we can. But if you can put it on before you see some preset coming, but if you don't see any preset coming, just go put it on. It's granular, it'll sit there until Mother Nature eventually brings moisture.
Cool.
Now it's your turn.
I think most of you saw a great view of him. So it's always hard to figure out where to put this thing.
I'm Chris Jubal, new weed coordinator. I just took over this year, so I'm new to the position too. We're gonna be expanding our presence in the Big Hole Watershed area through spray days. We'll also be treating Butte-Silver Water Division property and Montana Department of Transportation highways, all their property from fence to fence. So I'm kind of learning this. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot more to add, but about all I have.
Yes, now you are.
How big a pool do you have?
Does anyone have any questions?
We only have 3 full-time people. Hopefully more summer help. But some of our summer help gets tied up within the city of Butte too. We'll see how it goes.
Good luck.
Thank you.
I'm pretty excited to see new faces and people here. Have to use this if I can project.
No, I think you sound like you can project.
Microphones really bug me. They make me
Nervous, you're awesome. This is great.
nervous.
Just give me 1 second.
Please take like 30 seconds, turn to your neighbor and talk about what is your biggest challenge with noxious weed management. And I'm gonna have a couple of you share what that is too. So take a little bit of time. What is your biggest challenge with noxious weed management?
Okay, give me 1 second. I'm just gonna make sure it looks okay.
Looks good, Kim.
Okay.
Or do I just tell you?
You tell me and I got your back.
All right, who wants to share their biggest challenge of their neighbors? Randy?
Want to know what my challenge is?
Yeah, people? Okay, Jim? Dollars? Okay, staff? Anybody else?
Keeping up with new weeds.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that too, absolutely. So we're gonna take another like 30 seconds to a minute. Share with your neighbor your biggest success with noxious weed management. What has worked or been good within your program? Think of one positive.
Yeah, it's a weird time.
Who wants to share? What was their biggest success or positive with noxious weed management? Jim?
Biocontrol.
Biocontrol, you found good success? Awesome. Anybody else? Dean?
We had some borealism I wasn't aware of and Paul Hutton alerted me to it. I had spread it all over the place because I didn't even know what it was with 4-wheelers, but we were able to get chemical from Beaver County and pretty much killed it.
Yeah. So Borealism is scary, especially if you're a producer, very poisonous to cattle, horses. It actually can make the horse's hooves slough off. It's pretty nasty. And that's even if it's cured and dried in hay, it can be highly toxic. So it's one to, I have some of these books in the back. If you don't have one or need another one for your jockey box, grab them back there. If we need more, I can get more to you guys. Anybody else want to share success?
Closing roads.
Does it make people happy all the time? Yeah.
Well, I think the take home from that is that people would wash their vehicles.
Yeah. If you're in the Dillon area during summer and fall hunting season especially, we offer a $2 discount on car washes, undercarriage car washes at the Mini. If you have a conservation license. That's been a partnership that we've had with the BLM through Mike and the Dillon field office. And I'm even gonna include you guys as the Butte field office because it's the same partnership. We pay $1, BLM pays $1 through our agreement. So hopefully we're getting some of those weeds before they get taken back out to the landscape. So get that word spread that that's available and out there. We're gonna talk about B. Ray County weed management in the big hole. This is a picture of weed whacker ball from this year. If you're not familiar with the weed whacker ball, we'll talk about it a little bit at the end, but it's our big fundraiser and how we can support some of the efforts that we do within the valley. So go ahead. All right, so 2024, we did have a noxious weed trust fund grant for $25,000 where we were able to hire a commercial applicator to treat the 100-foot corridor of the river as well as some of Wise River as well. We had 12 spray days, all in total of what we had found, we had treated approximately 530 acres. That's not covered acres, that's actual wetted acres. So 530 acres that was treated, but we covered way more acres than that. We were able to hire commercial applicators through projects with the Forest Service in the burned areas of Trail Creek, Alder Creek, and Timber Ridge, which is on the other side of the Trail Creek fire, we monitored the 2019 and 2021 yellow toad flax. So yellow toad flax, there's a bit of it in the Triangle Gulch, Jerry Creek area, kind of all through the valley. This is what you're gonna look for. So if you see yellow toad flax and then these little bugs on them, they're starting to take off. We did find them. They do a good job. It's called Macinus janthus. We confirmed Mogollonus crucifer, this little guy up here. Jim, what does he eat?
Houndstone.
Hound's tongue. It's amazing. So we can't call Mogollonus crucifer, we cannot call him a biocontrol. Okay, he cannot be legally moved within the state of Montana. What you guys do? I know nothing. Okay. But what they're seeing, especially in Canada, where this bug is coming from, Montana has put $2 million into the development of this bug. In Canada is amazing. They kind of go, what's hound's tongue? Where we have seen this move into an area within a couple of years, the hound's tongue is sparse. I went to a site outside Georgetown Lake on a tour a couple of years ago. They showed us a picture of the area covered in hound's tongue. We found 2 rosettes. It's amazing. There is work being done to get the pest status removed on this plant. Right now, it's an agricultural pest. That's why it can't be moved and why we can't call it biocontrol. If we can get that pest status removed, we can go through the process of getting it turned into or getting that status as a biocontrol. Then we can start rearing and moving. That's gonna be a long timeline, but it is kind of all over around us. This isn't in Beaverhead County, Chris, it's in your county at Jerry Creek. It's just across the river. Chances are it's in Triangle Gulch, I would guess. We need to do some looking. We have 3 areas where we have found rush skeleton weed, and we'll talk about rush skeleton weed a little bit more as we go on. So rush skeleton weed is a new invader. We think knapweed is bad. We think hound's tongue is bad. Rush skeleton weed is 10 times, 100 times worse. It's not one that we want. Bob Hutton found rush skeleton weed at the Mystic Lake Trailhead, about 100 yards up the trailhead. There was 7 or 8 plants. That was in 2016, 17, somewhere in there. There was plants the second year. Since then, we have not found any more plants at that site. The other 2 locations, there hasn't been any plants after the single plants found. So we want to keep a lookout for it. There's a lot of it coming from Idaho and Washington at us. We do private applicator trainings and then EdMaps. I brought some of these books there in the back as well. I know I've talked about EdMaps in the past, but I remember to bring some books. This is for EdMaps West, an app on your phone. They don't have EdMaps West anymore. It's going to be EdMaps Pro, but this will give you an idea. The neat thing is when you're in the backcountry or wherever, if you think you find one of the new invaders or even knapweed, if you enter the point on your phone, upload it, I get an email saying there's knapweed or rush skeleton. I see the picture and I can look at it, confirm it, yes or no, at least know where to go look at it. So it's kind of a cool tool for that. EdMaps Pro is a new version. This is a map we can generate from EdMaps. Those points are taken along the Big Hole River by us or by our commercial applicator. Over the past years, we've been using it. Go ahead. Can you go back? This is the corridor that we treat for with that grant money. We also come up a section about that far of the Wise River. We have put some money up into this upper section. A majority over the years has been in the Wise River section. And now in the last 2 to 3 years, we're starting to really move downstream into that Divide Glen section and focus more there. Go ahead. So new invaders, leafy spurge. There's lots of leafy spurge when you get down towards Twin Bridges. There is starting to be pockets of spurge in this upper section. That's extremely scary. Thankfully, they have just been a few plants and we've been able to hit them hard. We go back second year and don't find them again. A plant you should be aware of, especially in the wet areas of the Big Hole, leafy spurge could take off like mad, right? We don't want it. It's bad stuff. So after 3 years, leafy spurge is typically only management. You're never going to get rid of it after it's been there for 3 years. It has a root system 25 to 30 feet in depth. And it has little nodes, red nodes that shoot off, produces new plants. So it reproduces both by root and by seed. In Beaver County, there's a lot of toadflax in the Dillon area around the M and the old dump. In this area, we have yellow toadflax. However, there were 2 plants of Dalmatian toadflax found on the scenic byway by Shadeen Novich, who was on my crew for many, many years. So that's a little concerning. It's a new invader in the big hole. It looks very similar flower-wise to yellow toadflax, but it has a more heart-shaped leaf. Rush skeleton weed, we've talked a little bit about it. So rush skeleton weed looks like a dandelion when it's a rosette. And then as it grows up, it's pretty much just stalk. There's no way to really get herbicide to get into the plant to translocate and kill it. Seeds can travel 20 miles by air. It's got those little tufts like dandelion seeds that float away. Ventonata, we found ventonata along the scenic byway in 2019. Cheatgrass is bad. Ventonata is worse. Ventonata has a high silica content. Early in the season, animals will graze cheatgrass. Ventonata, if they get a mouthful of it, they will spit it out and walk somewhere else. They will not eat it. It's like chewing on glass. Absinthe wormwood is a county listed weed. We mainly see it in Canyon Creek and Tide Creek next to Tim. St. John's Wort, Highway 43, around mile marker 5 or 8. There's a bridge here. This is St. John's Wort. Every few years we find a couple. This plant's cool. If you take the leaf, hold it up to the sun, you can see little tiny perforations. You can see the sunlight through it. So again, a new invader to the area. Blueweed is a priority 1B species, high on the priority scale for the state of Montana. We have it about 1/4 mile from our border at Chief Joseph Pass. It's found in a gravel pit. Every time they get gravel or sand, and then they'll let sand out when they, in the winter time when they're sanding the roads, every stop sign, they stop, dump that load of sand. You can look for a blueweed plant. If you're in that area, take a look. It has a bluish colored flower and then a fuchsia colored stamen that extends out of the flower, and it has a scorpion inflorescence. So the shape of the flower, it looks like a scorpion tail, okay? Yellow star thistle is coming at us from Idaho and Washington. It's in the same family as knapweed, has a yellow flower, but it has a barb on it about that long. Causes chewing disease in horses. Horses eat it, it impacts it into their jaw, creates a huge spur that goes in, neurological, kind of a mess. Not one we want. And then Medusa head is another annual grass that we really don't want. So we do have something similar called squirrel tail or bottle brush. If you see weird looking grass and you think it's Medusa head, run your hand up the seeds. If it shatters, it's okay. If it sticks together, you need to call me and we need to take a look at it. Okay, go ahead. So plans for 25 were recommended for funding to treat the 100-foot corridor along the Big Hole and Wise River areas. It was the only local cooperative project that didn't receive reduced funding. We'll treat highways, county roads. We do some work on some fishing access sites. BLM, our agreement has expired, but I'm hopeful we're gonna get a new one. We're gonna work with them. We'll get through this funding. We have some work with the Forest Service through the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation and Mule Deer Foundation and some existing pots of money. We typically work with the Resource Advisory Council or RAC, which is part of the SRS funding. However, the council that awards RAC money has not been completely formed yet. There's money sitting out there as part of RAC from, I think, 2 years ago. They have to get the council put together to be able to award that. As far as new funding for RAC or SRS, I don't know if that was included. Talking to my commissioner, I think they had to do an amendment to the continuing resolution. I don't know that that happened, so I'm not 100% sure where we're at with RAC. We do have some plans for noxious weed and invasive species education coming up this fall. We're talking about doing a new issue type of a training where we'll have somebody come in and talk about feral hogs, especially impact weeds as they tear up the ground. We have some cost share available to landowners through the Weed Whacker Ball Fund. So if you have a need for some herbicide, or if you are hiring a commercial applicator and you need some help, let me know. We can help you with that. We'll keep a look at those rush skeleton weed sites, and then we have 13 spray days scheduled. There's more on this list, but I'm giving you the whole list in case you're somewhere else. You can always use help. Jim and Randy have come to spray days. Tim comes to spray days. Diane has been at some. We appreciate all the help. You guys know where the weeds are. If we're not getting somewhere, we need your help to make sure we can get where we need to get, okay? It helps make our job a little bit easier. Quick update. This last year, after expenses, we raised just over $19,000. So that goes to supporting the commercial applicator along the big holes. We have 25,000 from the grant. We do an additional 10 through money raised at the Weed Whacker Ball. We provided $1,800 to landowners for herbicide and commercial application. We had 3,000 for herbicide in the Wise River area and increased education. So mark your calendar. Saturday, September 13th is the 2025 Weed Whacker Ball. Please come join us. It's a good time. No, that's Mike. Mike does the sweatshirt on the bear trap. That's a good weed pull to come to. I think that's my last slide. I'll quit talking. I can talk all night about weeds.
Does anyone have any
Yeah,
questions?
so not up here. We believe, yes, we have some hybrid toad flax. Yellow toad flax and Dalmatian toad flax can hybridize, and it's tough because it's got some herbicide resistance and it's just much harder to kill. Yeah. Okay.
Just on the Vetonada, I think in 2019, when I was working for NRCS, we had a big day where we were doing riparian assessments in the big hole above Wisdom, and the state resource fund that day.
Yeah.
He was out. He did find Vetonada on the valley floor, pulled the two plants down.
Is that Garrett Payne? No? So there is more Vetonada outside of Wisdom that Garrett Payne has found from the Fish and Wildlife Service. We need to visit about where the spot is.
What's most effective on toad flax? What chemical have you been using, Telar?
Which toad flax? Yellow toad flax?
Yeah.
I think Telar is the best. The big thing with any toad flax is it has this pretty thick cuticle, so having a good surfactant is hugely important. Yeah. Jim?
Do you have any advice about weed and pulling it?
They say do not pull rush skeleton weed. So pulling rush skeleton weed pisses it off. Quite frankly. They have seen that in areas, there's a lot of rush skeleton weed in Sanders County up around Polson. If you go up towards Superior this summer, the I-90 interstate corridor, there's acres upon acres in the right of way. We funded a big project to get that treated this next year or this summer. It's one to get yourself familiar with because we are the first line of defense for a lot of Montana. Don't pull it. If we think we find it, we'll clip it, we'll spray the rosette, we'll spray what we can, and then that's about the best.
It's in Clark, Jefferson, Madison County, and Idaho.
Yeah. And it's one also that you don't want to pull and then throw in your truck, because if you do that, it has enough energy that it will go to seed within hours being in your truck. You open your door and now we've let all those seeds go. So don't do that. Yeah. Paul.
Some question, so that house hung bug, you said it's labeled as an ag pest right now?
I believe it's an egg test.
What was,
I can't remember.
is there something, the good side is it's eating most,
Yep.
is there?
So it's a threatened endangered, or not an endangered, but a threatened species. There's a small population in Washington, but the majority is further south. Melissa Maggio, State Biocontrol Coordinator, they had a study the last 5 years, I think, that they were looking at Houndstown coexisting with Lyceum plant, which is closely related to the threatened plant. They were studying the impacts of Mogollonus crucifer on the Lyceum to see if there was any correlation to feeding and damage, and if there was any true impact to then pass on to the researchers, which is Mark Schwartzlander out of University of Idaho. He's doing the research. The way I understand it, they're close to submitting the petition to release the pest status, but they want to make sure that they have every T crossed, every I dotted, because it's a one-shot deal. If they do something wrong, submit it, and it's a no, there's no going back. They're really making sure that they've got all their ducks in a row, because it's gonna be huge. Granted, it's moving fast, all the way around us. It's gotta be here, we just haven't found it yet. When it comes to hounds, it's big.
What's your thoughts on milkweed? I know that it's a big thing for bees. I didn't worry about it for a year or two now, my irrigated hay fields.
Yeah,
In the last year, and you've seen it on the highway between Bill and Phone. I mean, it's slow.
a lot of people don't like milkweed. I personally don't like milkweed. It used to be listed in Beaverhead County when I first started. So back in the early 2000s, it was listed as a noxious weed in Beaverhead County. But because it's native, it can't be listed as a noxious weed. So essentially that means the weed districts cannot expend dollars managing it. And that doesn't mean that you guys as private landers do whatever the hell you want to do on your property. I know that's not maybe the best answer, but
Yeah, I noticed.
yeah.
In 2023, I had one of my irrigation ditches. Last year, I had to spend $3,000 to kind of get every single ditch on the place.
Yeah.
And
It's fairly easy to kill. Tips over easy. I think what's scary is that there is this population out there that's really promoting it. Handing out seeds to kids. My kids came home with several packets of seeds. An interesting conversation with an 8-year-old of, yeah, we're not planting those. Yeah, the monarch butterfly, it's very important. It's part of the ecosystem, but there's a balance. But being native, we can't treat it. Especially in the roadside, we don't have that option. Yeah.
No, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service is identifying milkweed as a major component in the Western monarch listing coming out. As a matter of fact, the state of Michigan is, I think, calling for 1 billion stems of milkweed.
Yeah.
Will stabilize the population. But they also have some varieties of milkweed that are all listed.
In different areas or on like the national list.
throughout the state of Michigan.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, milkweed is, it's one of those polarizing topics. Is that a fair way to?
It's the whole of the weed
Yeah.
world.
Right, and weeds is that one topic that most of the time, everybody can agree on. We hate the bastards, right? Anybody else?
How do you get along with UP?
They're still in non-compliance, but knock on wood. I've had the same contact for 3 years. He answers phone calls, emails, and he pays his bill. So they have said to be able to do the work, we have to go non-compliance. It's the only way they'll do it. We don't have a choice. It's a major vector. If we don't treat that corridor along the Union Pacific Railroad, all it's doing is refreshing everything. So, yeah. Anybody else?
So Amber, the Forest Service isn't here. What's your conversations with them on their situation?
It's not good. Lucas from Butte, he sent me a message weeks ago. They cut all their weed crews, trail crews, and wildlife techs. Talking to the guys in Dillon, I don't know the status now, but it's pretty dire. They're looking at us with no crews and no money to do much. What they've got in grant funds is pretty low, all we got.
The only person left in the range is
Brad. Brad Wayne. It's a little scary, hugely concerning, because when you look at weed management within a watershed, if you don't start at the top and work your way down, it's tough to get anything done. So.
Hmm.
Yeah, and most of the time, the Forest Service is at the top.
Has anybody been able, and I'm just wondering about this, but like, anyone been able to do any, like, maybe contracting with nonprofits? Cause sometimes nonprofits will have money they gotta burn, so they can partner with the Forest Service or the BLM and burn off some of their funding to help, like, I don't know if anyone's been trying to work on that kind of communication or,
We work with the Centennial Valley Association
yeah. those
down
are
in the
awesome.
Centennial. They have an assistance agreement with the BLM, but it's one of the ones that's being looked at. Is that the right way to put it? Yeah, and it's a brand new agreement and a pretty large one, but because Centennial Valley Association does so much work, I don't have to send my crews down there as often. We don't spend as much time down there. It allows us to go other places because that nonprofit takes care of the Centennial for the most part. We have a few days we go down and help, but we trust they have it covered.
Talking with the Wisdom Ranger District, doesn't look like they have anybody spray weeds, but they told Peterson Oaks cattle they would give us chemical, and we're gonna spray our range allotments where it needs to be. Most of it.
Good. That's positive. I mean, at this time, that's what it's gonna take. We're just gonna all have to come together and do as much as we can to stay on top of it and hope things will get better. So that's all I can hope for. But yes. Okay, great conversation. I appreciate each of you. Please grab a spray day list, a calendar, weed book, on the table.
Thank you.
My phone number, office number is in the book. You can look online, you can find my cell phone. I'm always available. Okay.
Awesome.
You do a great job.
Yeah, that's why she went last. Thank you guys for coming out. See some of you next month.
Good work, Kim.
Thank you, Pedro.
Thanks, everybody.